Well, hello, folks. I hope you're there, and I hope to hear from you if you are there. But anyway, yeah, the Middle East again. It's gut wrenching, tragic, breaks my heart every time. Over and over again over the years, it never ends. I feel incredible sympathy and compassion for all the victims on all sides, as most people do, I'm sure. I couldn't pick a side in this conflict because it's just your typical disgusting horror show of violence. And I hate it. I wrote a piece about peacemaking for my blog on Globe Hackers. You know, we've learned a lot over the ages, and we have a lot of tools at our disposal, very amazing, miraculous tools. And yet we can't do the peace thing because peace isn't profitable. Peace doesn't make you powerful. I'm not a powerful person. I'm a peaceful person. And you need conflict and deadly competitiveness to be wildly successful and powerful. All these leaders that we have across the world understand what violence brings them, how it helps them keep power. People are easily trained to go along with these things. There are powerful propaganda mechanisms to pour a fire hose of information into our vulnerable brains. Sam Harris came on with his usual thing, which is basically no moral equivalency. And I suppose the United States of New Miracles does things for the right reasons. Sure, we make mistakes. We bombed Cambodia, which created the Khmer Rouge, which led to genocide in Cambodia. Yeah, we do bad things. I'm reading a book now. Forgot the name of it. I'll put it in the notes. But anyway, it's about America in the age of genocide, and it just shows you how little governments and leaders care about such things, war crimes and genocide. It's almost like they're just another tool in the toolbox of game theoretic zero sum action, you know? So basically, Sam's thing is Islam is the mother of all bad ideas, and there are cultures in the world that are brutal and savage and advertise it, make no bones about it. And then there are cultures that try to be good but make mistakes. Mistakes were made. Not much discussion of state violence and so on. But so it just bothers me, the thing. I don't have to take sides to see that that's a tired old story from Sam, and there are better ideas out there that one could focus on. Anyway, so I ran across an article from Hand Waving Freakoutery, which I thought was really good, and I'll put that in the notes so that you can read it. It's not that long, but basically he's just saying, yeah, anyone would be disgusted by the violence going on there, perpetrated by Hamas and by the government of Israel. The defense force there, IDF, it's all bad. I really just can't stand it when people get involved in taking sides on this as if, there's some righteous fight going on. It's all a mess. And yeah, you can discuss the history like the blogger from Hand Waving Freakoutery says, but not going to do that. The history is interesting, and I recommend people learn about it, the history of how Israel became a state, what Zionism is. It's complex. There isn't just one particular expression of Zionism. World War I history, World War II history, how, what Palestine was, Jewish refugees from Lebanon and Syria and other places, as well as Europe, Palestinian refugees, Palestinian diaspora, like a Jewish diaspora with many people in the United States and across the world, refugees in Jordan and whatnot. Yeah. So I said I won't go into it, I won't. And the blogger said, hand-waving freakoutery, also said he's not going to do that. He says, by the time we're done, we shall see that not even divine intervention could end this conflict because the conflict flows from mathematics and systems theory. Further, this would be true whether it was on one side of the conflict or the other or neither. So he talks about Gaza and the sense-making crisis. It takes two to tango. So if you're going to whip up a war, you've got to make good reasons. And there's a video that he included in his post where a guy was talking about the best ways to get people excited and willing to fight. What you can do. You kill their women, kill their children, bomb innocent civilians, attack, civilians, whatever, and people will get excited and want to go to war. You look at the broader context with the U.S.'s desire to fight Iran and the U.S.'s desire to fight China. It's this Thucydides trap brought on by a decline in our economies, in our material circumstances, the scale of civilization, oil and gas, energy needs, and so on. It's just becoming a bankrupt global system, and people are starting to notice it, and there are cracks in the system that are widening. And so it's very problematic. What comes next? How do we deal with it? And for governments, powerful people and organizations and corporations, a lot of the way you keep your power is just by saying, well, we're going to compete for the resources and the power and the influence, and we're going to go to war to do that, because we can't have a bunch of semi-equal blocks, players, allegiances across the world doing their own thing. Somehow we've got to control it all because our order makes more sense. It's better. And so we have to make everybody conform to it. Of course, everybody does this. So that's the point of this he's making in this. The people who disagree with you about Israel-Palestine occupy a different echo chamber. We talk about that a lot here. A different information bubble. They have a model of the world that is different from yours, not because they're necessarily insane, but because they have different givens. So Sam Harris's givens are his givens. Other people have their givens and their priors. And their lens and their perspective and their wants and needs and who they worship, who they follow. Continuing with the article, these givens include curated media supporting one or the other prior about what's been going on. They include different understandings of the cause of evil in the world, granted by different religions, national, or secular indoctrinations. And if you think you're not indoctrinated, you're simply wrong, because we all are. Some of us have more awareness about how we're indoctrinated. We're more self-reflective. We can critique our own ideas, understand that there are different things out there without being too ambiguous, without moral equivalency, without some kind of, postmodern, it's all relative type of thing. You can actually understand the other person's side, if only to compete with it or to destroy it, if that's what your thing is. Continuing with the article, they are deep and intractable, and you cannot escape them, nor can those awful, evil people with whom you disagree about this or any other topic. If you disagree with someone about Israel-Palestine, try thinking of them as misinformed instead of evil, and then deeply contemplate the information bubble they're likely to be in as compared to yours. And then consider contemplating yours. Then consider doing it about everything else too, not just Israel, Palestine. And almost every time I make a video, this comes up. Some people can think like this and some people can't. There are powerful emotional reactions we have to these things. I have them too. And they definitely make my mind and heart into mush. And it takes a while to pull myself out of it and try to think clearly about what's going on. It's very difficult. And I take in a lot of information. And I have my own bubbles and my own biases. And so, it can be difficult, but I can't turn away for some reason. Sometimes I wish I could. But if you take a moment, But if you take a moment to skip that procedure entirely and look at the game theory behind the veil, you'll see that the morality actually doesn't matter. This sort of thing was going to happen no matter what, and will inevitably happen again. Now, I have an ongoing series about game theory as another element in your tool kit of critical thinking. And he's one of these poor people that's deep into the game theory thing as well. And it's a tough lens through which to see the world, because it doesn't always look nice with that type of analysis. And I love this this heading. He says, Nash equilibrium of suck. And I was thinking this morning, I'm so over shock and awful. And I can't believe that once upon a time I was slightly excited by Baghdad shock and awe. Looking back now, I'm ashamed of that. But that's me. So, but I'm skipping it anyway. He's skipping the complicated history and all that kind of stuff. I'm skipping it anyway because the current equilibrium state of affairs is divorced from the history of it, although certainly backwards applicable. So forget about the history. This thing has a life of its own, and we'll get to the reasons. Hawks maintain power through war and fear. The fact that their violence gets shared by the other information bubble more than their own is a feature to them. The sense-making crisis is their tool. This analysis works for Israel-Palestine, for 9/11, for the Vietnam War, and for many other conflicts besides. And I wholly agree with that. And see it. Going back to the Khmer Rouge thing, you carpet bomb Laos and Kampuchea, and destroy the damn place. You create corruption through the leaders that you support, and a horrible, bloody revolution happens, a mess, and you have genocide. The West doesn't give a flying fuck about genocide. It's performative. It has interests, and its interests are in profits. It does not have principles. The principles are a veneer, a costume, a character, a characterization of the moral rectitude of their system, their purpose. But there are so many contradictions in there that it's horrific to navigate. A peaceful resolution dispossesses them of power, while violence keeps them in charge. It is therefore entirely rational for Hawk A to inflict violence on the civilians under the care of Hawk B, bolstering their enemy's support while expecting a retaliation, because that retaliation will inevitably bolster the support of Hawk A. That would be true in any national belligerent dynamic. Each of the respective hawks form a symbiotic relationship with each other's violence so they can both maintain power. So when has enmity not been a useful tool for leaders? I do know people who proudly tell me that they haven't read a book in 20 years. And I do know people who proudly tell me that they get all of their information from cable news and so on. I'm not talking to people like that. They can hold their worldview and still function as a decent human being. They're just ill-informed. But when you look at things through this kind of game theoretic lens, you're going to see things a lot more clearly in finer detail, because you're able to analyze all sides of the game, the actions, the thought processes, the intentions, the desires, the goals of the people involved. Another currently popular misconception is the general definition of losing a conflict. Rest assured, Gaza is going to get creamed on the ground here in a bit and lose the offensive by any third-generation warfare definition. But that's not actually losing to a hawk. To a hawk, peace is losing. If both sides are hawks, then perpetual war is win-win. Now, Uncle Sam needs hawks, needs enemies, and if Uncle Sam doesn't have them, he will invent them, create them, develop them, develop the enmity, the misunderstanding, and he'll do it really well. You could be as peaceful as you want towards the United States, towards Europe, wanting to go along to get along, and Uncle Sam's not going to like it. You can't have a powerful empire like the United States without enemies. It's impossible. So fact-fitting, this is another heading he has here. Did Bibi prop up Hamas over Fatah to drive a wedge between the different Palestinian factions, knowing that it would promote more violence to solidify Likud in power? I don't know, and couldn't know. But if he did do so, his choice would be rational, given his square in the game theory matrix. My feed, or rather my echo chamber bubble, is full of memes like this, and there's a picture of Netanyahu with all these headlines, how Israel helped to spawn Hamas and blah, blah, blah. Just like how did America help to spawn Khmer Rouge. These are all facts, by the way, but you don't want to look at that side of it. You want to believe that Khmer Rouge just popped out as some evil satanic ideology. And there was no circumstances, there were no other causes, there wasn't preconditions to allow it to happen. It's just kind of magic, evil magic, superhero, evil, bad, supervillain magic. What of the theories that Bibi had foreknowledge of the assault and allowed it to happen? To bolster his position as national hawk and justify his inevitable military response. Are they real? They could be, but the very same thing was said about 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Were those real too? The Gulf of Tonkin, maybe? Black flags. Some are real, some are not. In time, the evidence comes out, and decent, sincere people can analyze the information and come up with an answer, good or bad, right or wrong. What were they doing? Why did they do it? I don't know if any of those were real or are real, but seen through the lens of game theory, they would all be rational choices for a hawk to make, because hawks trade blood for power. Each of these three claims has the same viral social media juice to them because they're plausible for the same reasons. Now, rivers of blood. I wanted to ask my friend, Australian friend, if he's prepared for his people, Australian people, to become cannon fodder in a war against China that somehow must be fought. Why? I don't know. I can't see it, but hawks in America sure want it to happen. So Japan is militarizing, spending lots and lots of money. You know, they have modern monetary theory, and they have a central bank, so they can print as much money as they want and buy a lot of American weapons and make their own missiles and missile delivery systems and warhead delivery systems and so on. Taiwan is a good customer. South Korea is a good customer. That demilitarized zone is an excellent tool to keep enmity going, to destroy and impede any peacemaking that anyone would want to try. So, will they line up to go to war against China? Certainly, Ukrainians are dying fighting Russia for the United States. Of course, for themselves as well. But it's more complicated than that, isn't it? If you think about it through the lens of game theory, or if you really, really try to understand the other side and what it was doing for years. The signals, the information that was available to you, not opacity, not secrets. You didn't need any spies. The guy was telling you what he was thinking all along. And then he followed through. And then the war started. And then the people started dying. And then people said, it's okay. Americans aren't dying. Tie a yellow ribbon. So conclusions. And he's like I am. I would rather we spent our resources building peace and taking care of life. Because it's precious. Life because of life. Consciousness because of consciousness. And peace must be built. It's hard to have and maintain. And you have biblical expressions of baby killing, firstborns being killed, genocide, slavery, all of this kind of stuff. He mentions Moloch, and so you can go to Wikipedia and look that up. But it's in the Bible a lot. So Jeremiah 32:35. And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to set apart their sons and their daughters unto Moloch, which I commanded them not. Neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. It's all sin all the way down. Babies are being killed, women and children, elderly, hospitals blown up. It's all bad. You want to build peace or not? Or you want to see these corrupt motherfuckers maintain power? Which is what this is all about. Profits first, power first. They tried to you know, get Netanyahu on corruption charges and whatnot. He wants to stay in power. So here we go again. And the same books will be written, and the same reasons will be exposed. And here we go again. So here's the conclusion of this blogger's take. I'll read the whole thing. I advocate peace. I abhor baby beheadings, gang rapes, and people getting shot and bombed. If I could sprinkle fairy dust on the Middle East and end their wars, which became our wars, I would do so. I'm not foolish enough to claim any variety of moral equivalency exists out there, nor would I attempt to even begin to place all the awful stuff on God's scales to determine the answer without beginning the task with God's omnipotence. I love that. Very, very powerful image there. But I unfortunately cursed myself by learning game theory. I hear that, but it's a curse worth having if you want to see the world more clearly. And I know how the current media engine of freak-outery works. So I know that even if I had dirigibles full of God's own fairy dust to use on the project of Israel-Palestine peace, I know even that wouldn't work. All a hawk would have to do is bomb someone to reinforce the other hawk across the wall. And the Nash equilibrium of suck appears once again. There will never be peace in Gaza. The mathematics of Moloch demands war. And so, my friends, here we go again. And people are so excited. Yeah, beat the Ruskies, beat the Chinese, beat the Arabs, the Muslims with the mother of all bad ideas. There has to be a war on terror. It can never end. State terror is just a tool for people with good reasons to use against people with bad reasons. Bouliamti, out.